everyone. Again, we're here at the Live Better Connected podcast. And as part of this special mini-series tracking the election, we're inviting people to give us a bit of insight into what's going on. Now, today I have to say we've got Nick Wiggin with us, who is the Head of Partnerships at Freshwave and also the Chair of the Communications Infrastructure Services Council. So hello, Nick.
Hi there, Gareth. Good to be here.
Excellent. It's always welcome to have you here too. Now, you're not only just at Freshwave and with Tech UK, you've also worked within the civil service as part of the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I sat within the Digital Infrastructure Department there when it was formerly called DCMS.
DCMS. And you're working particularly on the another mouthful, the DCIA. Now, what was that?
Yeah, the Digital Connectivity Infrastructure Accelerator Program. Yeah, that was a 2-year program really helping regions accelerate deployment of network infrastructure, specifically outdoor small cells. It benefited the most, I think.
Brilliant. And we'll come on to a little bit at the moment, but you've also worked at BT in your past as well. So you've sort of quite a rich history within infrastructure and particularly the mobile world.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I worked within the consumer side of BT for a couple of years. Prior to that, I worked for Ericsson in a global partnerships role.
Wow. So a mobile stalwart, let's call it that. Now, today particularly, we are talking about the elections, and we've had now all three manifestos. Now, we're sort of going from the groundwork of the wireless infrastructure strategy and obviously into unknown territory as to who might get in. But what I was particularly keen to ask you today was sort of a look at how does it work now? So we are at the precipice of a new election, potentially a new government. We don't know that yet. But what happens on sort of the inside, and what are civil servants doing at this stage?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. It's an unusual, uncertain time. I would say that it's a good opportunity to pause and reflect on strategic direction, and we're seeing that across our partners, across the mobile network operators that we work with, as well as local authority and regional authorities that we engage with on a daily and weekly basis. I think, central government, and you talked about my former colleagues and DCIT, a lot of work's been going on there around future telecoms, and clearly they're kind of setting up to help support the government that comes in after July the 4th.
Excellent. So a lot of, as you say, reflection and building and preparation. And I think, as an industry, and I imagine from your side as well, we're doing very much building our own prep as well, similarly on the sort of commercial side.
Yeah, I think it's quite an exciting time in the telecoms industry at the moment because there are so many new models evolving. I mean, at Freshwave, we're considered a neutral host by many. I mean, we offer infrastructure connectivity as a service, so we work across both indoor and outdoor connectivity for various different clients. But certainly, sharing infrastructure seems to be a model that we think will become more popular further down the line. There isn't an infinitely deep pockets at the mobile network operator level, so we need to support our partners to make their money go as far as possible to improve connectivity for people in rural and urban settings.
And we're seeing that sort of sharing aspect, not only at the local level, as you're saying there, but also on the national level with things like the shared rural network. Now, obviously, with the election going, we've seen the manifestos going out. What's your sort of take now on the three parties and where they are on particularly infrastructure, but mainly mobile? For instance, as I say, having looked myself at sort of the Conservatives manifesto, it seems to follow very much on the wireless infrastructure strategy. I suppose I wouldn't think otherwise, as that is their policy. I mean, and then Labour today, sort of with focus on planning and major infrastructure, and Lib Dems with sort of net zero and climate mitigation. What's your views on each of them?
Yeah, I mean, I think encouragingly, digital connectivity is important to all the parties, and we've seen that sort of clearly laid out in different flavours throughout the manifestos, in the last couple of days. I think we know that government, whichever government comes in and moves forward, digital connectivity will be an important part of what they want to do. I think the wireless infrastructure strategy, we're just over a year in now, and we're seeing how that is being delivered. We're seeing 5G innovation regions getting set up to make a difference to people's lives in 10 different regions across the UK. And clearly that was an initiative that was rolled out during the Conservative government, within the last 4 years. So it's unsurprising to see their manifesto sort of referencing that as a flagship success. But we I say we, but myself and people I talk to within the Comms Infrastructure Services Council and colleagues, we're excited about what the future looks like. But we as an industry do require further investment in digital infrastructure in order to deliver that connectivity and meet the ambitions of the current and future government.
I think across all the main parties, we have seen a focus on major infrastructure. And equally, I think we would consider mobile technologies as part of the critical national infrastructure. I suppose if we're looking forward, I mean, what would you like to see potentially more of? I mean, you've mentioned sort of public funding into this. In what sort of flavour would you hope to see from the political masters as we go forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, and it's a difficult one because, as I mentioned, there are various models evolving, but essentially, in order to deliver on the use cases or the stacks of use cases, which are sort of referenced in the wireless infrastructure strategy, you do need that basic connectivity in place. I think sometimes people can get carried away with the sort of what you can do with the data or the sort of softwareization and the sort of use of the cloud, if you like. But you have to get the basics right first. You have to have that radio equipment at the street level, or in a greenfield location covering a wide area. I'm sort of referring to a small cell or an outdoor macro solution which can deliver that coverage. So I'd like to see the next government that comes in really have a clear understanding of what digital infrastructure is required in order to deliver that connectivity experience.
And you mentioned that need for understanding. I think that's a really, really critical point. I think one of the things we found from a Mobile UK perspective is that base awareness and understanding of how it all works and what's needed, and even the sort of debate between coverage or capacity is still got to be made. Now, you've got your strong sort of role has been engagement. As we prepare for the election, we've got the period we have now and post-election. What would be your recommendations to other professionals in this space of how to engage with whoever, what flavour comes out into that new government? How would you start post-election?
Yeah, I mean, it does worry me the sort of lack of understanding in local and regional authorities about what the various initiatives are aimed to deliver. I mean, if you look at SRN as an example, the government's sort of flagship ambition to drive that connectivity into rural regions, I think it's important for local authorities to have a very clear understanding of what that means when it hits 100%, because there will still be places which don't have connectivity, typically sort of indoor areas, as well as other rural locations which, might not benefit from that sort of thin layer of connectivity which is being delivered. In order to, have that rich experience with faster download speeds through 5G connectivity, you need to think about the type of radio network that's in place in certain areas. So I think there's a job to be done to drive more education in local government, and I think the initiative that you helped champion, forgive the pun, Digital Champions. I think that I'd like to see government invest more time and effort and resource to empower local authorities with the knowledge and understanding to really develop their own digital strategy to deliver on that local ambition.
It's great to hear you mention Digital Champions, because it seems to be something that is getting coalescing around a lot of sort of both the local government side, the industry side, is something we'd like to see support, but we need that funding that goes behind it, which I think, again, going back to that sort of engagement side, it is educating not only the local authorities, which I completely agree with you, is lacking in that sort of understanding and awareness side of things. But we have now a plethora of parliamentary candidates, prospective parliamentary candidates, who are looking to hopefully become an MP across all parties. And many of those, this will be sort of topics they've never really approached before. And again, sort of looking at your engagement hat on, how are you going about, what's your thoughts in terms of engaging with prospective parliamentary candidates, bringing them up to speed, and potentially, obviously, post-election, if they have got in, then further then that relationship?
Yeah, I think that organisations such as Tech UK and UK Tin have a role to play to help the members of Parliament that take significant digital roles, help them get up to speed as quickly as possible. So, from a sort of central government perspective, I think that the framework is set up to do that. But it does concern me that in the local authority level, at local government level as well, that new MPs, with trying to understand the issues that their community face from a connectivity perspective, they might not have a clear understanding of the ambition that the mobile network operators have and how they're going about improving their networks, and where the priorities are and what the technical challenges are as well. It kind of all comes back to that basic level of infrastructure that's required in order to deliver a wide range of enhanced connectivity services. Not everybody needs 5G. 4G with 5G ready capability will suffice in many cases. But I think from a Freshwave perspective, we're kind of agnostic about the technology that's required. We look at each situation on a case-by-case basis and recommend the right solution in the right areas. And likewise, our mobile network operator partners are doing a similar role, nationwide, and we want to support that as much as we can.
Brilliant. And a sort of cheeky question I might have is, with everything going on, and where do you look back at sort of your time within the civil service or outside of the civil service? Where would you, where do you think is the most exciting point to be at this stage?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly enjoyed being within the digital infrastructure department, because you genuinely get a feeling that you're making a difference, but also you get a sense from sort of being within the inner workings of the challenges that these individuals face, and I think it's harder now than it ever has been before with that sort of the evolution of mobile technology. You've got the hyperscalers coming into the environments. What's their ambition? What are they focused on? A lot of civil servants sort of attention being pulled in different directions with different types of technology that can deliver that connectivity. If you boil it down to maybe a hospital situation, in terms of mobile coverage, it's not just about 5G critical care capability, which you might have seen adverts about, the sort of remote use of sort of operating capability. It's about one healthcare professional on one side of the hospital being able to communicate with another one at the other end of the hospital in order to sort of make that an efficient healthcare environment. So I think that we try to work as closely as we can with different partners to ensure that they've got the right solution in the right place, in a cost-effective way, that it can make a difference to people's lives. There's lots of different verticals now that depend on that basic infrastructure, and we're seeing a lot of interest from manufacturing as well, and other verticals that want to improve connectivity in their area. Say, as an example, private networks.
And if I'm a minister or a new minister who's just been elected, and I'm now on the I've got that new position, how best am I going to get that information that I need from either from industry through the civil servants or direct? I mean, how again, sort of from your time there, how best is it to generate that information and get it to that minister? How do we ensure that they get what the industry would like them to hear?
Well, I think, I mean, the perfect world situation would be that that minister, new in post in their local area, reaches out internally and says, put me on the phone to our digital champion. I want a 30-minute, 60-minute update on what are the issues in my area, and how can we go about fixing them. Give me a sort of like high level view of our digital transformation strategy. And I think, I mean, that might sound a bit flippant, but I think it's really important for local authorities to be able to have a digital champion that has that level of influence and connectivity to make a difference. It's not an administrative role by any means, and I think the local authorities that are genuinely invested in recruiting digital champions that can pull the right people together to make key decisions about infrastructure in, be that hospitals or stadiums or manufacturing or ports or just this city centre street scene is really important. So that's what I'm hoping that the MPs that come into the local constituency will feel that they're able to do. And if they haven't got a point of contact that has that knowledge, they need to fix it.
Brilliant. Well, look, thank you, Nick. That's been a hugely insightful look into how we engage with potentially new governments, with local politicians, both on the local authority side, local councillors, and prospective parliamentary candidates, who I imagine are all extremely well going out there campaigning at the moment. So, again, this is the second in our series. We've again thanking Nick today. We've got one more to come soon, and so please watch this space and make sure, if you haven't, subscribe. Again, if you are wondering what the industry's asks are for government, we have a manifesto at the moment, which should hopefully appear on screen now. But with that, again, thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you next time.